Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. I'm Sunanda Jaiseelan. What are the big events which will change and shape entrepreneurship the way we know it? What is the role that technology is going to play, and how can more women be encouraged to come back into the workplace? All of that being discussed with our big guests of the month tonight on the show. Let me welcome them. Kiran Mazumdar Shaw, Executive Chairperson, Biocon Limited and Biocon Biologics. Ravi Venkatesan, Chairman, Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. I want to just refer to the title of the book, What the Heck Do I Do With My Life? And ask you, have you perhaps also had such a moment, saying, what do I do next?
So thank you so much for, this conversation, which I'm going to really look forward to, because Ravi is a dear old friend. And, he comes up with the most interesting and relevant kind of discussions like the one he's having in this book. And all I can say is I'm so glad that I don't have to live through these turbulent times. Because, when I grew up and when I became an entrepreneur, it certainly wasn't the kind of times which had volatility, uncertainty, the complexity and the ambiguity that everyone seems to be kind of facing today. So I think what the young are going through today is because of the complexities that have been introduced into our lives, thanks to technology, thanks to the pace of technology, and thanks to uncertainties that have been introduced because of all that is happening, thanks to this ever-changing and evolving world. And all of that I relate to these very advanced technologies. Of course, I think technology is a great contributor to world progress. But in terms of our existence and our humanity that we really often think about, it often confuses us. So
Sure.
That's how I would like to answer that question, saying, well, I never had this kind of what the heck do I do with my life moment, because I had to kind of figure out my life in a much simpler way.
First of all, Ravi, I want to say congratulations on the book. You are, of course, you're a serial author. Like we have many serial entrepreneurs who join us on the show. And, as successful as you've been in your professional and your personal life, I want to just refer to the title of the book, What the Heck Do I Do With My Life? And ask you, have you perhaps also had such a moment, saying, what do I do next?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with Kiran that life used to be much easier, less complex, fewer choices, etc. But unlike Kiran, about every decade I went through this, what the heck do I do with my life kind of moment. And, in my book, I talk about there are a small number of people who are incredibly, lucky because very early they know what they're going to do with their life. What is my life about? Picasso, I doubt, had to think about, am I going to be a painter or am I going to do something else? And Kiran seems to be one of those who fairly early knew that she wanted to build a business and has stayed with it for a long time. I, on the other hand, every decade had to go through this existential question. And then every decade I took on a completely new adventure. And I think the point, though, today is many, many more people are asking this question. And particularly through COVID, you can see that this existential angst has boiled up to the surface. Many people are questioning their priorities and making very different choices about what they do, where they live, etc. So, so I think I would answer the question a little differently from my dear friend Kiran.
But I would like to add to what I just said, Ravi, and I want to tell you that it wasn't as if I knew exactly what I was going to do with my life. I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I had never planned to run a business of my own. I had very different plans because I wanted to be a brewmaster. And I chose to become an entrepreneur at a time when our country was very under resourced. I was a woman, okay, so I had to prove myself. I had a lot of credibility challenges. But I just wanted to get back to your book, Ravi, because I
Yeah.
think it's a very fascinating book because I see this turmoil and turbulence in a lot of young people today.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that you can solve a lot of these uncertainties and sort of personal kind of quixotic quandaries by having a sense of business purpose.
Yeah.
I very quickly in my life, even though I had a lot of uncertainties and I had a lot of complexities in their own way. So it wasn't as if to say that life was simple for me. I had to suddenly prove myself as an entrepreneur. I had no business background. I was trying to pioneer a technology which nobody had heard of called biotechnology. And it was tough, it wasn't easy. But I think what really gave me the strength of courage was a sense of business purpose. And I think a lot of people have to have that sense of purpose. That what the heck do I do with my life is about about sense of purpose.
Yeah.
What am I doing in this life? What is my purpose? What do I need to do to have a sense of purpose? Those are the kind of questions I would ask as even a young person today.
I remember from a first interview that I had done with you, Kiran, a few years ago, you talking to me about how difficult it was for you as a young entrepreneur, but particularly as a young female entrepreneur, to raise funds because, everyone asked you, can your father come and take this loan instead? They were not taking you seriously. They wanted, your father to stand guarantor, etc. As the big trend and as the big event that we're calling out here on the Leaders of Tomorrow for our entrepreneurs who are watching, my question to you is, have things really changed as far as women who are trying to raise funds for their business as far as that's concerned?
Unfortunately, not to the extent that I want, okay? Because I think women continue to face this challenge. I think women continue to have really difficult times when it comes to raising funding. And I think there continues to be, what shall I say, a unfair kind of bias towards women entrepreneurs. As you can see during, some statistics have actually shown that when you look at venture capital and how it is kind of deployed, women founders actually account for less than 10%. That's not a good indicator of whether things have really changed for women or not. So I do find that women do find it difficult to raise capital. And, I've often heard, venture funders say, you have to fake it to make it, and women are not good at that. My view is that actually, in this post-pandemic world, it is actually simpler for women to get to work. Sure. Because we are all moving towards a hybrid model. Okay. And I think a hybrid model suits a woman much better than it used to. Remember, I mean, in the pre-pandemic world, I think women had it tough because, to do a 9-to-5 job plus the commute used to basically take away a lot of their home time. And I think today with a hybrid model, women can actually balance their lives much better. Women are actually beginning to become a very, important when it comes to ESG. As you know, companies are beginning to really focus on, on their ESG metrics. And one metrics is about the gender balance, right? And most companies are now seriously looking at the gender balance. I know that in our own organization, this is a serious challenge and a serious focus, because in many parts of our organization, the representation of women in the workplace is very low. So I think ESG is also going to favor women in a very different way. So I think that women actually should benefit out of both ESG and the hybrid working models.
Since we're speaking about trends, let's then call out some of the big trends in the mid to short term for our entrepreneurs who are watching today's interview. Ravi, I want to come to you first. Do you want to get the ball rolling?
Wow. Okay. Well, there are no shortage of trends, but just to pick a few. One of them, Kiran has already talked about. She talked about VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And I think that's a trend. It's not, it's only going to, the amount of uncertainty and turbulence is only going to increase. You look at what's suddenly going on in Ukraine. I mean, nobody could have imagined these kinds of things. So fasten your seatbelts and get ready for a wilder and wilder ride. That would be one. Sure. I think the whole sort of climate change and sustainability is a giant trend. And that's, I think, is incredibly good news for most entrepreneurs, because the whole sort of green economy is estimated to be a $50 trillion economy over the next 30, 40 years. I would say that talent is going to be a significant issue. We are seeing that every company today, small, big, tech, non-tech, is challenged on talent and retention. The attrition numbers have spiked everywhere. You're seeing the great resignation, you're seeing the great reshuffle and all these things. And again, they are symptomatic of very strong underlying issues, which I don't think are going to go away. And so how you figure out flexible work arrangements so you're able to access talent reasonably at reasonable costs is going to be a trend. Capital. I think capital is good news. The world is fairly awash with capital. And I think there's going to be more capital chasing good entrepreneurs and good ideas. So there's never been a better time from a capital standpoint. And I suspect that will remain positive for quite some time. And then, of course, tech. I mean, we keep talking, when we say tech, we just focus narrowly quite often on, IT and artificial intelligence, machine learning, data, bloody IoT, etc. But that's just one part of tech, right? We're in the beginning of what is called the fourth industrial revolution. We are riding a wave of technology which is dwarfing the first and second industrial revolution. So these are just some trends I would call out.
I'm going to slip into a short break. On that note, we're back in just a moment. Welcome back. Our big icons of the month, two people who need absolutely no introduction, Kiran Mazumdar Shaw and Ravi Venkatesan. Kiran, to you next. The top events that you see which are impacting the life of entrepreneurs as we know it, what are a few of them according to you?
Today, I think the concept of building, enduring businesses over generations is no longer true. I think these ideas are very smart ideas, but they are short-lived. So if you don't, if you don't ride on that idea fast enough, either it goes away or it's lost. So I think you need to be very, very agile when it comes to seeking new business ideas and investing in them and developing them at pace. Because I think the world is not, moving at a slow pace like it used to. I think today you've got to basically seize an idea, develop it, unlock value from that idea and move on to the next idea. That's the way I find entrepreneurship is evolving. Today, of course, in India, say, for example, there are many fintech opportunities, right? Many companies are coming up with different fintech ideas. Either it's a payment gateway, or it's a last mile connectivity, or it is a blockchain technology that tracks your money movement, whatever it is. But there are so many different fintech ideas, and it's about who develops that idea first and fast. I personally believe a lot of the unicorns you're seeing today will be sort of serial entrepreneurs, moving from being one unicorn to another. So I just feel that this is the era of serial entrepreneurs, I feel.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you're a smart entrepreneur, you can very quickly build a great business idea. And I've seen this. That's why I feel that this is a very different kind of an entrepreneurial model that we're looking at today compared to yesterday.
That's the overarching theme that we have here on the Leaders of Tomorrow, about how entrepreneurs are being shaped and are shaping themselves for this new age. And in fact, we have a few questions which entrepreneurs who watch the Leaders of Tomorrow have sent us for this interview. And the first one is coming to us from Padmini. Padmini, go ahead. What's your question?
Hello, I'm Padmini Govind of Tarangini Studio in Bangalore. We're an artisan heritage studio. My question is, what are the emerging career trends in the 21st century, and what should entrepreneurs do to hone their mindset and skills to be successful at this? Thank you.
First of all, the idea of jobs, stable jobs and careers is going away. It's going to be applicable to a vanishingly few number of people. And more of us are going to, not everybody can be an entrepreneur, but certainly most of us are going to have to learn sooner than later to be self-employed. I think the other interesting trend is what Kiran's talked about, which is remote and hybrid work. And I don't see that pendulum swinging back, substantially post-COVID, if there is a post-COVID. Okay. And so that's again a terrific trend, because people can work from anywhere and you can access talent anywhere. So that's beautiful. I would think that one of the things that's happening is people are living much longer. And as a consequence of living much longer, you no longer have that three-stage life where you just study and learn till you're 20, earn till you're 60, and then you retire and enjoy. I think now you have to work much longer. People will want to do that. And so you have to constantly reinvent yourself, unlearn, relearn new things. Sure. So that's a crucial thing. So I would say these are important. And I focus a lot, Sunanda, in my book on the idea of durable skills or meta skills, super skills, which will be relevant 100 years from now, not just the next programming language. And the 4 super skills are, one is learning agility, the entrepreneurial mindset and skills. Then there are these what are called life skills and leadership. So if you are reasonably good at these 4 things, it turns out you're going to be quite okay. So, and I'm going to refer Padmini to the section in the book where Google looked at who are the most stunningly successful people within Google. And it turns out to be not all the techies, but people who've got some of these attributes.
Sure, Ravi. And in fact, in your book, you call that intangible assets. But Kiran, let me come to you. What would you like to tell Padmini?
Yeah, so my view is that, the skills of the future are not going to be unidirectional. Sure. I think you've got to be, creative, because I think creative skills are going to be very important. I mean, if you think about what many of the tech companies need today, you need people who actually can express themselves, people who can give you content, people who can actually read and write properly, I mean, those skills have started disappearing, and those are becoming important skills for tomorrow. If you think about design, that's becoming such an important skill, right? So if you're creative, I think that is going to be a very effective skill that will always endure forever. The next skill that I'm talking about is, of course, it's such a data-led world that we're in. We never understood data, appreciated data, or valued data like we do today. But we still have to make sense of it. And I think people who are smart to interpret data, those skills are going to be very important. How do we, generate data? How do we analyze data? How do we interpret data? How do we, base our decisions based on correct data? That's also going to be a very important skill And of course, the financial world is actually constantly looking at these kind of skills in terms of coming up with new algorithms. And so I think the math skill is going to be very, very important in many of these areas. Of course, computing skills are going to be important because digital is the world we are in today.
Sure.
And of course, apart from that, in biology, I would say there is so much going on, like Ravi just mentioned. I mean, all the kind of biomedical advances that are taking place and biological advances that are taking place are just mind-boggling. Believe me, there's so much more to discover, learn, and create new knowledge and new opportunities out of that knowledge. So
Sure.
so these are all the kind of trends that I'm thinking of, which cuts across different spheres, from design to biology to computing, to also nature and green technologies and agri-tech. I mean, there's so much happening.
That's all we could put into this first part of the Leaders of Tomorrow, but do stay tuned. Here's a sneak peek of what we have lined up on the second part for you. We continue taking in questions from entrepreneurs like yourself for both Kiran Mazumdar Shaw and Ravi Venkatesan. Take a look at what we have coming up.
One of the reasons why in my book, I say, you may or may not want to be an entrepreneur, but to succeed in this century, given the dynamic environment, everybody needs to be have this entrepreneurial quality of being able to constantly adapt to a fast changing situation.
I think agility and adaptation are fundamental to basically entrepreneurship. You cannot exist without that. You cannot succeed without that, and you can't endure without that. As Ravi very rightly said, if you don't adapt, you are finished.
Completely out of time on tonight's episode. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our contact details coming up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.